My child's grandparents are fighting me for custody. I was 17 when I gave birth to my daughter. I got pregnant by my then boyfriend, who wanted nothing to do with being a dad. For half the pregnancy, I was planning on adoption and had already started the process with an agency. I hadn't picked a family yet, but I was actively looking. He told me to pick whoever I wanted. He trusted me but didn't want to be involved. My family supported the idea. I brought it up first, and they agreed it was the best path for my future. It's not that they didn't care about the baby, but my mom made it clear that I was their main concern. My boyfriend was supportive, but mostly because it meant he could avoid responsibility. When I was around 6.5 months pregnant, I caught him with another girl. I was heartbroken and realized I'd been making all these huge life decisions for him. I knew it was stupid to have unprotected sex, but I did because he convinced me. I kept the pregnancy because I loved him. I chose adoption because he didn't want a baby. But deep down, I didn't feel at peace with it. I was depressed and sick about it. Eventually, I admitted to myself that I wanted to keep my baby, not for him, but for me. That decision felt like a huge relief. Telling my parents was terrifying. They tried to talk me out of it, but eventually, especially with my dad's support, they got behind me. We made a plan for me to keep my baby and finish school. When I gave birth, my ex and his parents came to the hospital, but they didn't stay long. His parents literally wrote my parents a check and said their son had too much going for him to be tied down just because I changed my mind and wanted to play mommy. Then, nothing. For over a year, they never reached out, never asked about my daughter. Meanwhile, my family rearranged their entire lives to support us. They paid for everything, took care of her when I was in school, made sure I kept my grades up, stayed in sports and activities. They really helped me succeed while being a mom. One day, I randomly ran into his parents while I was out with my daughter. I expected them to ignore us, but they were all smiles, saying how cute she was and how much she looked like their son. I personally think she looks just like me, but whatever. A few days later, my ex texted me saying he wanted to see her. I was surprised but happy. I still had feelings for him and wanted him to want to be a dad. I brought her to his parents' house and stayed the whole time. They acted really sweet and seemed like they regretted how they had treated us. His mom told me she was just scared for her son and hoped I understood. My ex seemed awkward but did try to play with the baby a little. Over time, his parents offered to babysit occasionally. They said it wasn't fair for my family to do all the work and that they wanted to help. When I started college, I figured the extra support would be helpful. I still lived at home, had full custody, and was doing everything I could to balance being a mom and a student. But slowly, things changed. They started calling themselves co-parents, making comments like, "We know what's best," or "You're still just a kid." They'd refer to her as our baby in front of me and my parents. I brushed it off at first, trying not to start conflict. Then they tried setting the visitation schedule and coming up with excuses to keep her long, taking her on outings without my permission or knowledge so they wouldn't even be home when I went by to pick her up. Then came the criticism. They'd say her clothes were too small or not right for the weather even though they were totally fine. One time I didn't pack enough diapers for a short visit and they made a huge deal about it, calling me irresponsible. They'd complain I didn't send enough food, even though she was only there for a few hours. I started to feel like they were looking for things to use against me. And then came the bombshell. They hired a lawyer and filed for custody. Not visitation, full-on primary custody. They claim I'm too young and immature to be a fit parent. They argue their son is being cut out even though he hasn't made any effort legally or otherwise. They're using the fact that I let them be involved as proof that I'm dependent on them, and they're trying to present themselves as de facto parents. They even say that my parents are too involved and that my daughter is being raised by a committee instead of in a proper household. I'm still in school, working part-time, and living at home. But I'm her mom. I've been her only consistent parent. My parents help because that's what good families do. That's not neglect. It's terrifying to think that people with more money and influence could take her away just because I was a teen mom. I've hired a family law attorney, my parents are paying for it and helping me navigate everything, and we're fighting back. I have texts, messages, and people who can back me up. I've never been anything but her mother from day one. I never expected this. I let them in. I wanted my daughter to know her dad's side of the family. I thought we were coexisting peacefully. I don't understand why they would try to do this to me. I feel like I'm being punished for trying to give them a chance. Let me analyze this story for you. This story is a gripping, heartbreaking example of how generosity, vulnerability, and good faith can be weaponized, especially against young mothers. It is a cautionary tale about the power dynamics embedded in age, class, and perception, and how quickly they can shift from supportive to predatory. At the emotional core of this story is a young woman who made a life-altering decision at a fragile age, to keep her baby despite overwhelming pressure to give her up. That decision required bravery, maturity, and emotional clarity, qualities that directly contradict the accusations now being made against her. Her choice wasn't rash or naive, it was deeply considered, built not on fantasy, but on love. And it's clear she has lived up to the responsibilities of motherhood, surrounded by a strong, supportive family system. The betrayal in this story is slow, deliberate, and insidious. The grandparents' initial abandonment, signified most grotesquely by writing a check to absolve their son of responsibility, is damning in itself. For a year, they were absent. And yet, their sudden re-entry wasn't motivated by remorse or reconnection, but rather a strategy: gain access, build trust, establish a pattern of involvement, and then seize control. Their legal maneuver isn't just a violation of trust, it's an attempt to rewrite history. They are trying to erase the narrative of absence and paint themselves as the saviors of a neglected child. By framing the narrator's young age and support network as evidence of unfitness, they weaponize her very efforts to be a good mom. They distort her support system into a liability, not a strength. This is gaslighting at an institutional level, supported by privilege and a presumption that wealth and stability trump love and lived responsibility. But what's perhaps most devastating is how the narrator's kindness and willingness to share her daughter, qualities rooted in maturity and empathy, are the very things being turned against her. She didn't keep her daughter hidden out of spite. She welcomed these people into her child's life, even after being burned by them once. And now she's being punished for believing that shared love wouldn't lead to a custody war. The grandparents' behavior reflects a toxic entitlement, often seen in cases where a young mother is perceived as lacking power or legitimacy. They believe that because they are older, wealthier, and connected to the child biologically, they should have ultimate control. But biology is not parenting. Biology did not show up in the middle of the night. Biology did not pay the bills, change the diapers, stay up late after school to study, or feel the loneliness and strength it takes to mother as a teenager. This case also highlights a dangerous societal bias, that young motherhood is inherently irresponsible, and that support from family disqualifies someone from being the real parent. This is a myth. Community-based parenting is not incompetence, it's resilience. Despite the betrayal and trauma, the narrator's voice remains clear, composed, and grounded in truth. She is not asking for pity. She is stating her reality and fighting for her daughter. She shows more stability and emotional intelligence than the very people questioning her ability. Her fear is valid. The legal system has a history of favoring those with money, age, and perceived normalcy. But her preparation, the texts, witnesses, and a legal team show she is not backing down. That, in itself, is proof of her fitness as a parent. This story is a warning about how privilege can mask predation, about how systems sometimes fail those who need protection most, and about how, in the face of all of that, love still endures. This young woman is not just a teen mom. She is a mother in the fullest sense of the word, protective, devoted, and fierce. And no one has the right to take that from her.